you ever noticed how, in the grip of desire, you feel completely convinced that you're making a free, rational choice? You tell yourself you want this person, this experience, this moment, and nothing could be more important. In that instant, your mind doesn't question, it obeys. You feel like the master of your actions. But according to Arthur Schopenhauer, that freedom is an illusion. What you call desire is compulsion. What you call choice is instinct disguised as decision. Schopenhauer's central idea is that behind everything we do lies the will to life. Not conscious willpower, but an unconscious force driving all beings to survive and reproduce. He saw this will as blind, irrational, and unstoppable. Sex, he argued, is its sharpest weapon. So when you feel an overwhelming pull towards someone, when logic fades and desire takes over, it isn't you in control, it's the will. You think you're chasing pleasure or love. Really, you're serving a program written into your biology. Imagine a man alone, late at night. He has work tomorrow, and promises of discipline to keep. A message arrives from someone he's attracted to, and all resolve evaporates. He says, "I'm choosing this." But if you ask him why, he can't give a rational answer. It's just pulling him. This is the fog of passion. When it rolls in, everything else disappears. We become single-minded, tunnel-visioned. We mistake that intensity for freedom. Schopenhauer would insist it's the opposite. You aren't exercising free choice. You're caught in the oldest chain that binds all life: desire. Then the act ends. Release comes. Minutes later, the fog lifts. The fire that seemed impossible to resist vanishes. Suddenly you see with cold detachment and wonder, why did I risk so much for this? What was I thinking? We call this post-nut clarity. Schopenhauer saw it as more than a psychological quirk. It unmasks the illusion of freedom. Desire tricks you into believing you act for yourself. Clarity lets you glimpse the puppet master. He described desire and reason as at war. Intellect is meant to guide us, to weigh options, to consider consequences. But when desire enters, intellect becomes a servant. The mind fabricates excuses under pressure from the will. It's just one night. Nothing bad will happen. I deserve this. Once the will is satisfied, the intellect wakes and asks, how could I have believed that? You don't decide your desires. They erupt, overtake you, and vanish, leaving you wondering why you obeyed. You can see this everywhere. Dating apps encourage endless swiping, framed as free choice. But biology filters preferences below: awareness symmetry, fertility signals, confidence, resources. Preference is often ancient impulse in modern clothing. Or consider someone risking career and reputation for a brief affair. In the moment, it feels like passion. In the morning, clarity hits. They weren't deciding, they were compelled. Even advertising runs on this machinery. It doesn't sell products, it sells desire. After purchase, the thrill fades and you see you didn't need it. Post-nut clarity is a mirror of human life. We are seduced by urges that vanish when satisfied. Schopenhauer believed the cycle of desire, satisfaction, emptiness defines the human condition. Desire feels like freedom, but it's slavery to the will. Satisfaction feels like fulfillment, but it's only a pause before the next craving. Hunger returns, so does lust, ambition, material craving. The illusion is, I choose this and it will complete me. The reality, you are compelled and completion never comes. Why dwell on this? Because clarity, those rare moments after desire is spent, can reveal something deeper. They remind us we're not as free as we believe and push us to ask, if I don't control my desires, how much control do I have? If freedom is an illusion, what does it mean to live wisely? If satisfaction never lasts, where should I seek meaning? Once the illusion of freedom is exposed, a harder truth appears. If I'm not free in my desires, what force drives me? Schopenhauer's answer is stark. Behind every kiss, every longing glance, every reckless night, it's not you who acts. It's the will to life nature itself, using you as a vessel to keep the species alive. The will to life is a blind drive underlying all living things. It isn't rational or moral. It doesn't care about happiness, justice, or meaning. Its goal is survival and reproduction. Think of it as the operating system beneath everything. A tree stretching roots, a lion hunting, a moth to a flame, a human risking everything for intimacy. Different forms, same impulse. Unlike philosophers who celebrated reason, Schopenhauer saw the will as the essence of existence. Decisions are surface ripples. Beneath them, the will pulls strings. Nowhere is this more obvious than in sex. We like to think sex is about pleasure, intimacy, or love. Schopenhauer stripped away the romance. Sex is the will to life, using individuals as tools for reproduction. When two people feel irresistibly drawn, it isn't their personal happiness that matters, it's the potential child. Nature pushes them together not because they're meant for each other, but because their union could produce strong offspring. You're not in love, you're being recruited. The attraction feels overwhelming, not because it guarantees joy, but because it serves the species. Once the act is over, the illusion fades. That's why clarity follows so quickly. The will has no use for you at that moment. Take modern hookup culture. On the surface, it's pleasure and choice. I just want to have fun. Schopenhauer would say, you think you're free, but you're enacting the will's ancient program. Matches and flirtation are biological algorithms. The will disguises impulses as chemistry or my type. After sex, when chemistry dissolves, the illusion is exposed. The disappointment, the awkward silence, the swift clarity, all make sense through his lens. The will drove you together. Once it got what it wanted, it left you with emptiness. If sex is about reproduction, why does it feel so overwhelming, even when reproduction isn't planned? Because the will doesn't care about you, not your future, family, moral codes, or happiness. It cares about itself, life continuing. So it uses the strongest bait, pleasure. Desire doesn't whisper, it shouts, it consumes. Once the act is complete, the voice disappears. That's why clarity often feels like betrayal. The will used you and dropped you. Nature values the species over the individual. Your personal happiness is irrelevant. What matters is that life goes on. So it tricks you into believing sex brings lasting fulfillment. It doesn't. It ensures reproduction. Many report a strange emptiness after casual sex. The pleasure was real, but the deeper promise that this would complete you was an illusion, because it was never about you. Schopenhauer called sexual passion the will to life's most cunning trick. It convinces you to act against reason, sacrifice time, energy, and even morality for a purpose you might not consciously care about. Stories of people destroying their lives over desire are not accidents. They're the will's work, promising happiness, then abandoning you once its aim is served. Happiness was never the goal. Continuation of life was. If you felt the contrast burning need before sex, the cold detachment after you've seen the will in action. The clarity isn't just a mood swing, it's a glimpse into the truth. Your desires aren't yours. They belong to the will. You are its instrument. That's why clarity feels unsettling. You catch the strings and see the puppet master. Though we're focusing on sex, Schopenhauer believed the will governs all striving. Ambition, greed, hunger for power, craving recognition. Sex is the rawest example because its link to reproduction is obvious. But every desire works the same way. It promises fulfillment, drives you until you obey, then abandons you. The rhythm craving, satisfaction, emptiness is the will's drumbeat. If the will is blind and indifferent to our happiness, what does that mean for us? It means we are trapped actors on a stage, reciting lines written by a force we can't resist. We imagine ourselves free and rational, but we're vessels for the will's cycle. Post-nut clarity is a brief awakening, when the mask slips and you glimpse the tragic truth. The heat of desire builds until it feels unbearable. You can't concentrate. The object of longing becomes everything, then release. Immediately, the once urgent thing feels distant, even trivial. Why did I want this so badly? What's left now? To Schopenhauer, this moment proves desire isn't about lasting fulfillment. it's compulsion. If sex gave what it promised, clarity wouldn't feel empty. But because the will's need has been met, satisfaction collapses. Life swings, he wrote, like a pendulum backward and forward between pain and boredom. Pain when driven by desire, boredom when desire is satisfied. Post-nut clarity is a miniature pendulum swing. The same pattern governs consumer desire. You fixate on a new phone, car, or shirt. You buy it, feel thrilled for a bit, then the shine fades. The hunger returns. Another form of post-nut clarity, you weren't chasing happiness, you were playing the will's game. Even romantic love, the most celebrated human connection, is drawn into this logic. Lovers feel they found ultimate meaning, and they sacrifice to be together. But beneath the poetry lies the will's arithmetic, reproduction. After sex, the love-struck frenzy is revealed as biology's calculation. Once that calculation has been attempted, the illusion fades. Many relationships that begin in overwhelming passion dissolve into indifference or resentment. The will's goal has been served. The individual faces emptiness. Post-nut clarity exposes more than desire's emptiness. It exposes us. Just minutes ago, nothing mattered more than this act, this person, this moment. We were willing to risk reputation, values, even long-term happiness. Afterward, we see how easily we were deceived. It feels humiliating because it shows we're not as rational or free as we thought. For Schopenhauer, this isn't personal failure. It's the human condition. There's dark comedy here. The same force that drives wars, inspires art, fuels industries, and topples empires can end with someone rolling over and thinking, why am I here? Life is tragicomic. Grand illusions that deliver emptiness. What should we do with this? Schopenhauer wasn't optimistic. As long as we're alive, the will drives us. We can't escape desire. But awareness can give a kind of wisdom. When clarity strikes, don't dismiss it. Recognize a rare moment of insight. It reminds us not to pin meaning on desires that vanish after fulfillment. Awareness won't end the cycle, but it can soften its grip. We can laugh at our illusions rather than be destroyed by them. Zoom out. Post-nut clarity is one instance of a universal truth. Satisfaction is fleeting. Desire deceives. The gambler feels it after a big win, the ambitious worker after a promotion, the consumer after a purchase. Burning desire, fleeting satisfaction, hollow clarity. Clarity also reveals manipulation. We are not masters of ourselves, but puppets on the strings of a blind force. That's the harshest truth. There's humiliation in this, not because sex is shameful, but because the mask slips and we see we weren't in control. The intellect, that proud faculty, becomes a servant of biology. We believe we command, we only carry out orders. A man can do what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills. You can act out desires, but you don't choose them. Sexual desire is implanted by the will to life. You thought you were free, that you chose her. The truth is more mechanical. The will calculated behind your back, and once its purpose was attempted, dropped you. What you call clarity is simply the removal of compulsion. The cycle repeats. The pull, the fog, the release, the clarity. Each time, you re-experience your slavery and see the trick more clearly. Advertising, politics, addictions, all mimic this loop. Sex just makes it impossible to ignore. Recognizing manipulation admits a hard limit on autonomy. Yes, we choose, but not the desires that steer us. We inherit them. We are programmed by them. Desire is the jailer. Intellect is the clever lawyer defending the jail. This realization is sobering, but it explains why clarity feels like stepping outside yourself. In that moment, you're briefly free from compulsion and glimpse what freedom might look like, a state untouched by desire. History is full of people destroyed by desire. Samson and Delilah, Antony and Cleopatra. Modern scandals that end in public apologies that sound like echoes of clarity. I don't know why I did it. These stories resonate because they mirror our private humiliation, intellect reduced to biology's servant. Schopenhauer's remedy is bleak. True freedom is impossible while enslaved to the will. The only escape is detachment, a kind of renunciation. For most of us, post-nut clarity is the closest we come to this state. In that brief silence, we see the truth. The pleasure wasn't the point, the romance wasn't the point, the will was the point. Once satisfied, it discards us like tools. The power of recognizing manipulation is this. You shift from puppet to observer. You may not cut the strings completely, you are human, but you can at least see them. And in seeing them, you gain a measure of dignity. The next time clarity comes, treat it as philosophy, a momentary revelation that you are not as free as you believe, and that your deepest desires may not be your own.